Greetings and welcome to What's Wrong with Wolfie, a podcast dedicated to the pop culture from the 80s to the now. I'm your host for this one, Jason. Unfortunately, the other guys couldn't make it, but don't you worry, I have another interview for you this week as we welcome Ali Mositi, the producer and lead designer on the Another World-inspired video game, Full Void. We get into Ali's history with video games and Full Void, how it came to be, the hurdles during development, and much more. And if you have not encountered Full Void, it is a beautiful, hand-drawn adventure game that plays with your fears and fascination of the world that has been created. It's not a long game either, which is much appreciated in these days of overwhelming choices. I'll make sure to have links in the show description to Full Void's store pages for Steam and Nintendo Switch, and in case you wasn't aware, it is also physically available on the Evercade. But before we get to Ali's interview, I'd just like to remind you all of a few things. Firstly, we are a fan-supported show, and if you'd like to throw us a quid or two, then coffee is the place to go. And we have recently added a couple of membership tiers. For £1 a month, you can join the Legend tier, where you will receive a few bonuses, including a special Discord role and access to a private channel, and also be included in our monthly social network shoutouts. Or you can join the Hall of Famer tier for £3 a month, where you'll gain access to a special monthly podcast, which will be based on many different subjects from top threes to covering media formats. Plus, you'll be included in our Hall of Fame, which is included in every episode show description. But of course, if supporting us monetarily is not right for you right now, then you can support us for free by giving us a 5-star review or rating on your podcast platform of choice. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the person who left a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts recently. Very much appreciated and grateful. Thank you very much. I also would like to mention our Discord, where you can come and be a part of a small community to discuss pretty much anything pop culture related, or just to share what's going on in your day. You can find links for our coffee or Discord in the show description or on our website at thewolfiepod.com. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get to the interview with Ali. I'm very excited to welcome to What's Wrong with Wolfie, Ali Mositi, who is the founder of Out of the Bit Studios and lead developer and producer of the video game Full Void. So welcome, mate. Welcome to the Wolfie Pod.
Hi, thank you. I'm very excited to be here as well.
Like, when you said yes to coming on to talk to me about Full Void, I did get very excited because I saw Full Void at EGX last year, and I was automatically just magnetized to it because of the visuals of the game. It just called out to me because of it just looked like Flashback and Another World from the Amiga and Mega Drive days. So to have you on here to talk about this, and it did turn into one of my favorite games of the year. Yeah, very excited to get to talk to you about Full Void and how it came to be and everything.
Thank you. Honestly, it's great to hear you. I still don't believe we finished the game. We released the game and people try the game, and It's real. It's in the hands of people and we get feedback. It's fantastic.
I guess that must be quite surreal for you in some ways because of that, because you spent X amount of time working on it, 2 or 3 years. I mean, I'm not sure. We'll hopefully get into that a bit later. But yeah, it must be very surreal for you after all that time working on it to see that happening.
Absolutely. I'm still surprised when people mention that they love Full Void. It's one of their favorite games. It still really surprises me.
But before we really get into Full Void itself, I think it's always important to learn a little bit about yourself and, you know, your gaming history and how you found video games from when you were a child.
I guess I always had an interest in computers and video games ever since I was, as far as I can remember, watching TV series and films where they had computers and they hacked stuff, and Knight Rider, they did stuff with whatever was the newest and coolest in the 80s. I was very attracted by that, but I had no way. We had no computers in the house. Almost no one did at the time. I lived in a small village in Sicily where there were no computers around basically. At some point, we started seeing some arcades, especially like on the seaside locations. They had arcades. I remember I was very attracted by the arcades, but they were very expensive as well to play on for a little kid. So I got to try a few, but mostly watch other people playing arcades. And then at some point, my cousin, which was also my neighbor, got a computer Commodore 64 and invited me to play together with him. We spent most of the time waiting for the tape to load because he only had the tape on the Commodore 64. So it took ages. Sometimes it wouldn't work with to restart. Nevertheless, it was fantastic. It was the coolest things I've seen at the time. And you also started buying magazine as well. I think it was Zap, but there was an Italian version, and that was pretty cool to see as well. So that kind of introduced me to computers.
I mean, I've got no nostalgia for the Commodore 64 and all the Amiga, unfortunately, because I was always my brother was shaking his head at me. How dare you?
we got to fix this.
We were a Spectrum house. We had a Spectrum ZX, thanks mostly down to my brother. He was the one who brought that into the house, and later progressed to an Atari ST, and that's how my journey went on into video
So it's
games.
parallel path to mine, but it's still great. The Speccy was a great machine, especially for learning how computer worked. Really, I've never seen a Spectrum in Italy for
Oh,
some
really?
reason. They were not around. But funny enough, there was another British computer which became my first computer. So my cousin had a Commodore 64, so I clearly wanted one as well. So I asked my parents, but they ended up getting a Olivetti, which was really a BBC Micro compatible computer. And there was a great machine, again, because those early computers, 8-bit computers, you could really understand the entire machine, top to bottom. And quite often they came with a guide to learn how they work, how to program them. And it was great for the time because it would just, it's not like you had your computer, you connected to the internet, you went to Facebook or whatever. There was no internet, there was nothing else to do apart from the games you could afford to buy and play forever. And then actually try and make your own games and try to copy maybe listings from magazines as well. So that's what I did. That's how I learned to program.
Yeah, I was just about to say about how people used to send in like the codes from games that they created for you to just try at home for free. Well, I mean, what a great way to encourage people to try these things and to get into coding and develop your own games.
Totally. And just to paint the picture, again, for someone that lived in Italy, in a small village, it was very hard to come by to anyone else to ask questions. Like, let's say you were stuck on a problem, you wanted to understand something, you just couldn't go on the internet. You couldn't find anyone to talk to. So at some point, I was in primary school. So someone came to advertise a course to learn to program. I knew how to program already, but I signed up anyway just to meet other people. And I was the only kid that was about 8 at the time. They were only 30 years old, the other people doing the course together with me. And they ended up talking to me. I ended up making friends just because we had the computer in common. So it didn't matter the age, we would just talk about computers and stuff. And the teacher as well, we became friends with the teacher. So that was great because I got to ask questions, talk to other people about computers. But it was like a bit of a mystery, the moment you came across someone else that was into computer, then you were, oh my God, you're into computer as well. Tell me, what do you use? What do you do? Shall we make a game together? So it was very, very strange, very, very different from what it is now.
Okay, can you remember the first game you ever made?
I made it was kind of a platformer. I remember I still have some drawings I did for it because I put the drawings in my guide, my BBC Micro guide, and I saved the guide, and I still got it. I opened it one day and I found my drawing, which is like a little kid designed the game, and it was like there was like a bridge, and you were supposed to jump off the bridge, not jump on the other side of the bridge, no,
Mm-hmm.
off the bridge. And there was a train as well. I put it together, so it was kind of a platformer. It wasn't very good, but again, I was only a little kid on my own.
We're going to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you remember some of your favourite games that you used to play on the Commodore?
Yeah, there was well, again, it was a BBC Micro for me. The Commodore, I remember with my cousin was Rambo. I remember we play a lot of Rambo, and then some of the Uson game probably. Yeah, we played lots and lots of things, but again, I don't remember the names. Yeah, on the BBC Micro, I spent a lot of time with Jet Set Willy and Doctor Who and the Mines of Terror, which was an amazing game. All those games were like original, there was no piracy, at least not for me. I didn't know anyone with could copy games, so it was all original games. So I couldn't afford many games, and the ones I could buy, they would last me for a long time. But there were collections as well. There were a bunch of collections from British company. So in a way, the BBC Micro kind of started my interest in the British scene and culture as well, because most of the devs were from Britain, from the UK, and so there were Blue Ribbon Software, I think, and other software houses that were like British, and they put out quite good quality games in like value for money. You'll buy a compilation that had like 8, 10 games, and they're quite good. They were quite nice. Some of them even multiplayers. I remember playing them with my sister as well. She was not into computers, but she was happy to play a few games with me sometimes.
No, that's nice.
There was also an Overdrive, just came to mind, a game called Overdrive, which was for the BBC Micro, not to be confused with the one for the Amiga. It's a different one,
Okay.
which was a bit like, think about Outrun or Lotus, but for 8-bit, okay? So
Yeah.
very crude graphic and really, really hard. There was like daylight and night and then snow, and the snow was downright impossible to play. It would slide all over the place, so...
Well, what was the next step in your gaming journey after the micro?
So yeah, that lasted me for a few years, and I love the computer. I remember at some point I went to the shop to buy a new game, and the shop owner told me, "No, the computer has been discontinued. There are no new games for it." And for me at the time, I didn't, there was no concept of, oh, computer don't last forever, right? Because you buy a radio, you buy a TV, you just use it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, "What do you mean discontinue?" I was just a kid, like, surely that can't be possible. There must be new games for it. No, no, it's done. They don't produce it anymore. You would never find new games for it. I was okay. And I got home. I was very sad. I said, oh, my computer is dead. Okay. And then my sister got with a boyfriend, and she's older than me, and he had an Amiga. It was in my town. It was a very nice kid at the time. He was a kid as well, just older than me, and it was I guess he was quite wealthy because he got an Amiga 1000 when it was new. Also, he had a drum kit, and his dad had an helicopter, so it was like the coolest family in
Wow.
town. And his dad built the helicopter by hand, by the way. So he was
Wow.
an engineer. So I got along with this kid really well myself. We talk about computers all the time. And my sister was very annoyed by that because obviously she wanted to talk to her boyfriend and he will talk to me about Amiga and stuff. So he showed me the Amiga and the fact that he could talk. And the time was just, oh my God, this computer talks, right? How cool is that? Because if you remember with the Amiga, you would just type sentences, you would just speak, which was insane. And he introduced me to, a whole new generation of computing. It was completely the next level compared to the 8 bits and the BBC Micro. And I needed to have one at this point. There was no confusion. I needed to get an Amiga. So at some point, I managed to afford the Amiga 500. And it was the Amiga 500 Plus, the one with the 2.0 Kickstarter, which meant there was a bit of compatibility issue, but not a big of a problem. So, and the Amiga became like my bread and butter. I love the machine to bits. There was such an active scene for the Amiga. So at that point, it was a few years after, and more people were into computers, and the Amiga started being mainstream. So if you were in a class of 20 people, maybe 5, 6 of them had an Amiga, so you could kind of change games as well. And get to talk to people. Even though again the town was quite small, at some point we had someone start an Amiga club, and it was great because I got to hang out in there and hang out with people making games or making them or just modding them or changing stuff or just replacing parts for the Amiga. It was great. It was just a great community, and some of those people are still my friends to this day. So yeah, it was really a great time. And the Amiga was so great, not just for games, but also for productivity, like composing music, drawing, making animation. It was the next level.
You make me sad I didn't have an Amiga. Because,
You still can. They're getting pricey, but you can still,
yeah.
they're not cheap, but you can still buy one.
Obviously, on the Amiga, we had Another World come out. Was that your first experience of that game on the Amiga?
Not really. There was after a while, but it still blew me away when I tried it. So first experience of what was it? I guess I don't know. Had Prince of Persia. Maybe it's a good reference. Yeah, Prince of Persia was one of my first games on the Amiga, and it was a fantastic game. Such a good game. And then Pang. I think it's called Pang. It's like an arcade game with the two people shooting. Like there's a ball bouncing on the screen, and every time you shoot the ball, it splits into two. It's a
Okay.
very good arcade game. There's a great conversion for the Amiga. It's pretty much arcade perfect. So I played that one a lot, and again I could play together with my sister as well because it was two players. I remember pretty much every game from Sensible Software or Team 17. A few from Bitmap Brothers as well, and then classic from Bullfrog as well, and Monkey Island as well. Great games. So there were so many games really on the Amiga, and it felt like it lasted for ages. The Amiga, like obviously because I was a teenager, and those years every year when you're a teenager it lasts like a
Yeah,
century. It's like there's
exactly.
so much going on, right?
Yeah.
Compared to now, like 4 years is nothing. At the time, 4 years, like from the Amiga to the Pentium or something about. But it felt like it was like ages. And again, not just the game got better, the programs got better, but then we had the dawn of the internet with everything that came with it. Before that, we had CD-ROM, which was a massive step forward in terms of content and just programs as well, because the magazines will come out not just with floppies but with CDs, and you could find lots and lots of utilities, programs, and PD public domain games as well. It was great. It was such a great time to be into computers.
Yeah, sounds really awesome actually. When you look at it now, do you feel a bit sad because people maybe miss out on that, or do you think people are still getting that kind of experience?
No, I think there is still a lot of great stuff, and in a way, things are easier nowadays. So I'm not sad because, again, people nowadays is actually easier. If you're into computer, you want to create a game, just do a game jam with someone. You will find someone that wants to do. I don't know. You want to do a programming, you will find someone that will do the art for you or the music. So you don't have the problem that I had like being in a town. If I said I like computers, people look at me like I was crazy. Like, what, computers? Like, you're a kid, just play with toys, play with a ball, whatever. Like, it was strange at the time to be into computers. Again, I could only talk to grown-ups like at the time
Yeah, yeah,
about computers, and no one will understand. Now it's like, everyone knows what everyone is using computers, and actually parents encourage people, you want to use computers, learn to program, that's great. At the time it's like, why don't you just go outside and that kind of thing. Obviously I did go outside because if you live in Sicily, you go outside a lot and to the seaside, but the I enjoy playing the computers as well. And again, during the time with the Amiga, actually it was great to do stuff together with other people as well,
Mhm.
even if it was just tampering with a demo and changing the music or some of the programming or the art. It was great.
Obviously, like I can kind of see where or why you went the way that you did with Full Void, with the aesthetics and everything else, and the obvious like inspiration from Another World and Flashback. When you came to develop Full Void, was that the first point on your piece of paper to say that that's where you wanted to go with it?
For Full Void, yes. Obviously, there is a lot before Full Void that we did as a company and I did as a developer, right? That got me to that point. Yeah, I still remember when I play Another World the first time on the Amiga, just the intro is mind blowing. It's so cinematic. I think that the thing that really sets it apart, Another World, is the fact that they use this vector graphic, which really allow the developer to do something different compared to other games. Most games, to save memory, they use patterns and they repeat patterns. They use like tiles, so they got like a sprite or something and then repeat it, right? So they can save memory. So most games look similar, like with patterns and repetition, right? Even if it was a platformer. What they did at the time, by using vector, and basically the game is made out of triangles, it meant they could build any scene they wanted. So in the intro, you got a car that arrives and slows down and stops, and then you got lightning. You got a lot of stuff going on. And for the time, yeah, if you look at it now, maybe it looks a bit dated, but I still like the look of it because it's quite unique. And plus, it was really cinematic. So that's a really cinematic game, and for the time, it felt like it came from the future. Obviously, nowadays we don't have such limitation, right? I don't need to. I haven't got like 32K of RAM, and that's it. I can just, if I need to draw something on screen, I can do. Nevertheless, what happened in gaming is this: when the PlayStation came out, everything moved to 3D. So when we finally got enough memory to draw whatever we want on the screen, hand-drawn animation kind of got out of fashion in favor of 3D, which was new and was the latest and greatest. So I think we never really explore what we can do with the handcrafted like 2D, because again, when we could do that, we had more memory. Everything was 3D. So my point with Full Void was, okay, we got a canvas, we can do whatever we want. In the case of Full Void, we set for a standard definition pixel art canvas, so it's 320 pixels by 180, just 180 to have that 16 by 9 ratio. So if you play on a modern TV or Nintendo Switch or Steam Deck, it fills the screen, right?
Mhm.
But within this canvas, we can do whatever we want. And we really had fun developing all the animations the and the animation, the animation, the sprite animation, the full screen animations in Full Void. So that's what we did. In a way, that's a long answer, but yes, another word is a big inspiration for Full Void. 100% respect to the developer. He did a fantastic job with the game. And yeah, but we also, that's one of the inspiration. We also clearly Full Void is our own game, so we wanted to tell our own story, and there are other things that inspired Full Void as well. I mentioned Monkey Island previously. One of the things that I really like about adventure games is that there is most of the time there is no scrolling, so each screen is its own composition. It looks like each screen is like a painting, right? And that looks really beautiful. That's another thing that really made an impression on me as a kid playing games, like the fact that, oh, you got this lovely adventure games. You're Guybrush tripled, and you go to the next screen, and you don't know what to expect. What's on the next screen? You don't know, right?
Mhm.
It loads, and it's something new. You enter a door, and you are in the bar with different music. It's fantastic, and that's a feeling we wanted to have in Full Void as well. Obviously, you play the game, so you know that you don't know what to expect in each screen. So each screen we done the same. It's its own composition, with or without its own use of perspective and colors. So we really wanted to surprise people. We wanted to tell a story with no text or dialogues, and we wanted to surprise people and while they were playing the game with whatever we decided to do. And one of the great things about 2D is that you can really go from idea to implementation very, very quickly. You just have an idea, you try it, it works, and then you just polish the graphic and you move forward. While in 3D, if you got an idea you want to try, you need to have the model, uh, texture the model, animate the model, put it in the game. There is a lot that. That's why you got bigger teams working in 3D, which is great. It's great. I'm not saying no one should do 3D games. By all
Mhm.
means, do 3D games. They're fantastic. But as a small team, we need to play to our strengths. If I decide to do, I don't know, GTA, and it's 5 people working on it, we'll never finish it.
Not unless you
So
try and do the original one.
probably.
It's interesting you say about the 2D elements and everything. And I remember playing the demo at EGX, and I think one of the things that blew me away about it was when you was down in the sewers, and
Yeah.
like you're used to going left and right on the screen. And I guess being a gamer from the 90s and late 80s, that obviously this game was inspired from, in my head was like, okay, I'm just going left and right, But when you hit the sewers, you get to a point where you're like, well, I can't go any further. What do I do now? And that's when you press up, and then you kind of go into the sewers more. And that was a surprise to me because I didn't expect that, but it was such a cool effect that you
Yeah.
managed to pull off.
Yeah, that's good. That was intentional. We for each level we had kind of a target, right? And we said the sewers. What do we want to achieve? We want you just escape something, right? We wanted to have the feeling of the player being lost. So you feeling like a bit lost in a like maze. So we said, okay, how can we achieve that? And we said, oh, okay, the game is 2D, but we can still give the illusion of 3D, right? The third dimension, we can still go into corners. And so we mapped it out. We got a big file where we got all, the map from the top. Okay, that's the area. You go around. So we wanted to go around and maybe have options of going in between. So you kind of get lost, but not too much. I don't like when you got way too much choice in game, because it's like, where do I go, left or right? I like when there is a bit of choice, but then you can kind of find your way. And that was really, once we did that, we really liked it. Like you're saying, also for us developing the game was, wow, that's cool. Okay, it makes sense. And now the game feels 3D, even though it's 2D. The same way Monkey Island, other adventure games, they do when you enter a door. You just,
Mm.
you go to a different screen, right? But for you, you enter the building. You are in the
Yeah.
building. And that works. The same in cartoons, right? So even though the game is 2D, there is an element of 3D or exploration. And that's, again, we didn't have to stick to the old formula of classic games. That's where we, whatever we had in mind, we could just do it, because nowadays we haven't got that many limitations, right? And that's just an example. Yes, we can just enter. If there's a corner, you can enter it. Why not?
It's really interesting with the creatures as well that you designed for Full Void. I've played like atmospheric, like narrative kind of exploration games before, and it's had creatures you've got to avoid and everything. But with Full Void, you kind of managed to actually put a bit of fear into me as I was playing it. You seem to have managed to program the creatures in a way that you just about escape from them, and that really puts you on edge as a player. Kind of really appreciated that side of it, because it kind of I don't know, just kept you more alert as you was playing, because you wasn't quite sure what was going to happen next. And then when you did see one of these creatures, you were like, ah, shit,
Yeah.
because you're like, oh, what's going to happen now? Obviously, that was intentional. Was it a hard thing to program into the game?
Yeah, totally. There was intentional. Obviously, with every game, there is a lot of iteration. So you play it, you try, say, oh, this works, or this doesn't work as well, and you keep iterating, right? When we got to the creatures, right? So we kind of wanted to have a good progression for the game. At the end of the day, in Full Void, you're just a little kid. There is not a lot you can do. You can only escape, right? So, but we start the game with the intro, and then you're like, okay, I can stand up, I can run, I can jump, I can grab onto stuff, climb up, and then what's next, right? And we wanted to tell a story as well. So, how do we tell the story? We want to know that you're being chased. So, depending what you do, you got the enemy coming after you, and we really, really timed it. Like you say, we kept it ready until the timing felt right, and you just about escape. So
Mm.
even if you got the like solve the puzzle, you just about escape. So you like if you see people playing at EGX or WASD other events we've been to, that was great, because we saw early versions of the game at WASD in April last year, and we saw that the game was actually working really well, because you could tell that people were jumping off the seat. And even when they succeeded, they were smiling. Even when they got captured and they died, we kind of reward players with a full screen animation, which is hand drawn.
Mm.
So people look, oh, that's nice. Okay, I died, but at least I got to see a nice animation. And then with the checkpoints, they're not too punishing, so you don't restart from the beginning of the game or the level. So that really allow us to make stuff really, really like keep you on the edge of your seat, and also you never knew like is something going to kill me now or not? And if it does, I got to react really quickly, and that's a great feeling. And that's one of the few things you can play with when you got a character that can't really fight or what else can you do if you're a kid? Either you modify the environment or you escape, and that's what we ask you to do. In the meantime, of course, there is a nice progression. So again, then you learn to hack stuff, you learn to interact with the environment, and I don't want to spoil the game, but there is an element of progression that you can do by interacting with the environment using your laptop within the game as well. So that was nice. We really enjoy working the game and iterating the game, developing the game, and then showing the game to our friends and see if it worked or not. If it didn't work, then we went back and iterate some more. But yeah, there was a lot of work that was put into having that result keeping you on the edge of your seat at all times.
Yeah, I was there. And, when you had those moments where you just escaped capture
Yeah,
and death, and like there was a couple of points where I just had to just take a moment, take out whew, that was close,
yeah.
before progressing with the game. But like I said, that was just something I really appreciated about the game and
Thank you.
how well it was pulled off. So,
And again, for us, it's hard because when you work on something, you're too close to it, so you don't know if it works or not. The only way you can see if it works is watching other people play it. And then you see it with fresh eyes, like, oh, yes, it's working. And from their reaction. Because I know it's like if you watch a thriller or a horror film and you know what happens, it's like, yeah, I can stay there. I know it survives. There's no, you just know what happens. There is no surprise there. So really, the only way to tell is to watch other people, and that was fun anyway to put something together and then have people play and see if it worked or not. And sometimes it's just toy with the. I like the idea. Okay, we designed the game, and you still play it, but we tell the story. So you're like in our hands as a designer in a way, which is fun. So sometimes we just toy with people. We make them think something's going to happen, but then it doesn't. But maybe it does on the next screen. So that was really fun to do as well.
yeah, really, really, it just kept it interest in the game because,
Yeah,
like you say, what was going to happen next,
yeah.
while you're still enjoying all this beautiful pixel art that was throughout the game.
Yeah, can't get credit, take credit for the art. That was down to Miles, Leo, and Tom as well. They did a fantastic job with the pixel
They
art.
really
So
did.
obviously, we work together in the same office and we iterate together a lot. But I don't draw; I do the programming and managing the company. But they did a fantastic job with the pixel art and the animations.
Any kind of game that comes out these days with pixel art in, I'm kind of magnetized towards it. But there was something about the art in Full Void that was just slightly different, and it's one of these games that I can just like look at and just like really soak into the world that's in front of me just through the pixel art. So those guys really did a great job.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks to them, and we put some new stuff into the game as well. So it's pixel art, but as I said, it's working within the boundaries of our own custom engine, and within the engine we can do some fancy stuff. So while we work in Full Void, as we got perspective on some of the screens, and we got lift and other stuff that goes up and down and moves on the screen, we were faced with the challenge of okay, this is moving. How do we account for the perspective for those elements? So what we did, we started slicing sprites in a way that we could change the vanishing point. And what we ended up at the end was creating our own voxel renderer that we integrated with the game. So some of the objects, the one that move within the screen, they're voxel models. Because Miles was very good, is very good not just with pixel art, but he can do voxel models very quickly. But the reason it works, it doesn't clash, because when you put 3D and 2D together, quite often they do clash, they look good together.
Mm-hmm.
But they are rendered by the same engine in the same pixel grid, and they are designed by the same designer. The guys work together with the same palette and same styles, so they blend nicely. But when they move, when you go into a leaf or some of those voxel objects, there is a nice feeling of, oh, that's kind of cool, a little bit like Amiga demos, if you know what I mean. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so that was fun to do as well. Also stuff that rotates, because some cool stuff in the game that kind of we had fun implementing as a voxel model and rendering within our own pixel grid.
Was there rotoscoping involved?
No, funny enough, many people ask, like, did you use rotoscoping, which of course was very much used by Prince of Persia, Another World, and Flashback. The reason is, I did say to the guys, "Do you want to do some rotoscoping?" But they are actually animators and they know how to animate, so they just did it with their brains. I don't know how they do that. It's magic to me, but they just do it. Sometimes they did really complex motions, and they just work on the pixel directly, and until they achieve the result that we wanted.
So all the movement in the body and everything else was all just animated.
Yeah, everything sound animated. Of course, we got more, better frame rates nowadays, and we are not limited to 4 frames for walking cycle. We can have 16,
Mhm.
20, whatever. Like, and the guys really put as many frames as we needed to make the motion really like look good. And it does look a bit rotoscoped.
It
I
does.
do agree with you. Like when I look at it, if I didn't know, I would say, okay, that's rotoscope. But no, it's not. Everything you see is done by hand.
Wow, even more impressive then. A minute ago, you mentioned about the hacking with a laptop
Yes.
as one of the features of the game, as well as when you meet the robot early on in the game as well, which
Yeah.
helps you out. Well, was like the hacking always to be involved in the game, or was that something that came along a bit later?
Well, we developed the main character. We wanted it to be relatable as a kid, so we put a backpack on the sprite. And that got me thinking, okay, well, why has he got a backpack, right? There must be something important in the backpack, right? And then we wanted to interact with the environment. As I mentioned, on the first level, we wanted to show how to move, how to jump, and then how to interact with the environment. So the first version, level one, at some point there was a lift that was turned off. So we had like a mini game where you push a button, turn it on, but that wasn't fun. So we said, okay, and we tried different things until we had the idea, okay, maybe he's got a computer and needs to connect the computer to the electric box of the lift, and then you can hack and turn things on and off. And then that got the idea of, okay, maybe you can do more stuff because again, you cannot fight, you're just a kid, but maybe the way you fight with your brain, right? It's a Homo sapiens. So what do? We just use our brains, and so the kid uses a laptop to solve the problems. So in that case, we started thinking, okay, let's have a good progression. If we're going to hack stuff, we'll do 2 different types of hacking. We'll do time based, where you have to push the button at the right time, and we use the pseudo 3D engine that we created to achieve the mini game with it. If you play the game, there is a section where you got 3 cylinders that they are rotating and you have to align them at the right time. So that's the first thing that we ask you to do with your computer. But we want a simple interaction so everyone could enjoy the game. So when I say hacking, it might sound complicated. It's actually just about timing. The other type of interaction is kind of putting a sequence of actions to control other creatures or other objects in the game. As you play the game, we introduced it slowly. So we really wanted to have a good progression in the game. That way, when we got to the sewers, then you encounter some spiders, right?
Hmm.
And then initially you learn that they can, kill you if they see you. But then you find that when they got onto their own docking station, then you can connect to them and hack them, and they can do stuff for you. So that's okay. Step two of hacking, and then from there it was quite fun to introduce, and we introduce one action at a time. Maybe initially you can say go right, go right, go right, or go left, and then you can say use something, do something, and then we started building more complex actions. So that's like the core of the game in terms of puzzle solving, because again it's a cinematic puzzle platformer. And the puzzle element is mostly with hacking and interacting with the environment. So yeah, there was a lot of fun to do, but again, it took a lot of trial and error and iteration from the game design point of view, especially to have something that's clear, like it should be clear what you need to do, but not too easy, and then have, keep adding complexity.
You mentioned about the sewer and the robots, and it did take me a little bit of time to figure out what to actually do because, like you say, if you're on a higher ledge and the robot spider thing is on the bottom, and you jump off that ledge, it's going to get you.
Yeah.
There's no escaping. But then when you hack and you control them, and you're like, whoa, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a cool mechanic. I like that, and obviously it progresses throughout the game.
Yeah, hopefully once you solve something, you go, ooh, that was nice. With hindsight, then it becomes, oh, of course that's what you have to do. But sometimes, like, I'm not sure, what do I have to do? And we
Hmm.
had a lot of people trying the game and beta testing the game to make sure things were not too difficult or too easy. And that's always a challenge for any game.
Yeah, I never found it overly hard to go through the game, but there were sections where it was still challenging enough to make you stop and think to solve the puzzle in front of you to then be able to progress. So yeah, I think you found a good balance with that.
Thank you. If you wanted to do basically, if we had to pick, we'd rather people finish the game rather than being stuck on something, because there were so many great games back in the day. They were like impossible at some point, or some modern games you need like, I don't know, 100 hours of gameplay to finish it. The target with Full Void from the beginning was, okay, I want people to finish the game. I want people to be able to share the experience with the family, with their kids. That's why in football you don't find, yes, we mentioned you can have a bit jump scare and horror, but there is never violence or gore in the game, because I wanted the experience to be shared with the family, with everyone in the family, even people that don't like horror, and gore. But it still keeps you on the edge of your seat. It gives you that, oh, I don't know what happens, right? But we wanted people to really get to the end of the game and finish the game and achieve, oh, I finished the game, right? Which is, it's nice. It's a nice feeling to finish something, right?
Obviously, it's very easy these days just to be able to go on the internet and find the answers to puzzles that you're trying to solve in a video game. And,
Yeah.
although I try my best to solve the puzzle before I do that, I'm probably not as intelligent as some other people. So I try a few things and I'm like, I just can't progress any further because I just can't figure this puzzle. I just don't know what the developers want me to do to solve this. So then that's the point where I will jump on and not necessarily read the whole answer, but just try and get hit to kickstart me to be able to then figure it out on my own after that. I didn't have to do that with Full Void because of the
Yeah.
balance was so great. As a player who does struggle with some more other games with their puzzles, like it was not only like refreshing for me, and I'm sure there's lots of other people that feel the same way as me.
Yeah, no, no, I get it. It's not you. It's not you. It's me. It's everyone else. We all struggle. We all play some games, and then it becomes the, okay. I don't know. I'm stuck, and if I leave the game for a couple of weeks, I come back to it. I have no idea what I have to do, and it's not you. It's like there's this concept in the gaming industry. Sometimes a game has to last a certain amount of hours. Like, we don't expect that from films. Like, it's not like, oh, this film was great, but it should last more. I don't know why we expect this from the game. Like, it's fine for something to be short as long as it gave you something, right? So I'd rather people finish the game. And there was one of the regional goals in the regional pitch. The guy asked me, how long do you want Full Void to be? And I said, like a film, like you watch a film, 2 hours, 3 hours. We ended up the game being, first playthrough, 3.5, 4 hours, but still in that ballpark, okay? Still okay. And that's fine, because I really, at the end of the day, everything is handmade. We're giving people like a lot, like, of animations and stuff. It's okay to just end the story. The story completes. There's a start to finish, and then it's fine. You can move on to next game, next book, next comic, whatever you enjoy. I just don't want stuff to be inflated for no reason, or like really hard puzzle that makes no sense. And it's a tricky balance, though. It's a tricky balance because people expect that, and I think anything too short, then they complain, and they can get a refund on Steam and stuff. So it's a tricky balance.
I don't know, man. Like, because there are so many games that come out these days, and it is overwhelming as a player on like how many. And it is great. It's great to see like indie games flourishing so well, but there's so many, and like you're only one person with
Yeah.
set amount of time, and you will miss great games. And the longer those games are, the more for someone like me who does have limited amount of time for video games. I get quite picky because I look for the shorter experiences. If a game's going to take me 100 hours, I probably won't play it unless it's Zelda.
Yeah, exactly. I'm exactly the same. The last game I played, which was more than 100 hours, was Zelda, but Breath of the Wild, I
Hmm.
didn't have the courage to start the new one. Well, I started a new one, but I'm struggling because I got little time again. I got kids
Yeah,
as well,
yeah,
and quite often I do prefer to play games together with them. So we tend to prefer like do shorter experiences or maybe a local co-op or stuff that we can do together. It's tricky.
Yeah.
I just at the moment I don't have the time to sit and play 100-hour games on my own.
Exactly. So when I see a game that's going to take me 4 hours, I'm all in. I'm like, yes, I'll take that, because I know I'm not going to be spending 6 months playing one game, and then all these other games all these great games that are coming out in the meantime just going to pass me by. I can kind
Yeah.
of feel like I can still experience some of these greater games. So yeah, again, that was something else that attracted me to Full Void, was because of the short playtime, I guess, and keeping it at that under 5 hour playtime. It's really, really appreciated. During the development of Full Void, was there like anything that didn't expect happen? Was there any surprises that didn't see come in?
Again, it was very iterative. So everything you create, which is like a game or a book, anything you create, I always say it's funny because you start with one idea, and then your creation takes its own identity. If it makes sense, like at some point you see your creation, but it's not your initial idea; it's something else, and it's got its own identity. This happens to me with every game we make. It happened with Super Arcade Football, with Super Arcade Racing as well, and it happened with Food Void. It's like, in a good way, the end result is better, but you can never predict what you want to make at the beginning because you just can't. You don't have enough data. You haven't played the game. You haven't iterated on it 500 times. And what's fascinating is that I started listening to like interviews with the classic developers from the 90s, and they always say the same. They say like, no, we spent lots of time iterating, like playing over and over. The same is true for Doom with John Romero or Syndicate as well. They said, what you see is the tip of the iceberg. 70% of what we did was thrown away, and what you see is that the end, whatever we felt was great and we iterated upon. So it's all work in progress and the iteration, really. The game, yes, did surprise us many times because, again, it was jumping from one idea to the next one. And there were things that we did that we not planned at the beginning in terms of progression. Okay, is that, like I said, there is basic platforming, hacking, and then your companion. And then we wanted to have a plot twist, right? But before that, we wanted to have a feeling of progression here with your companion, with your robot companion. So if you not play the game, there could be some spoilers in what I'm going to say. But if you play the games, it's nice that I can talk about it. Okay, so spoiler alert. So at some point, you get to a certain part where you upgrade your companion. There is like a biolab, and your companion get boosted and can transform to other things. So before you have your companion, and he can go left and right. He's got like a hook where he can climb and shimmy across and do stuff for you. But then we wanted to take it to the next level. So we had this idea of the kind of biomorphing, which connected the entire game because we got like biology and morphing together with AI from the beginning of the game. And really allow us to do lots of things like, okay, now your companion can become a ladder or could become the hand of another object, right? And really got the game into a different set of mind and in terms of puzzle solving and possibilities. And then we want to say, okay, if you got attached to your companion, you upgrade your companion. Now is the time to lose your companion. We wanted to have the plot twist. So at some point you say, okay, if you get it to another like control panel, and this time your companion is actually affected by the AI because you're quite close to it towards the end. and it actually transforms into the monster in front of you. So it's like, oh, my cute little ball, like little robot. Now it becomes your worst enemy, right? And it captures you. And then there is a scene where you got like the brain scanner and they look at your brain because they're looking for something. And then by you basically manage to flip the brain scanner, project into your companion, which is now the enemy, and then he sees all the flashback, all the memories, and becomes like good again and helps you out. So there was really something that came together as a puzzle for us developing the game. It wasn't planned from the beginning. It was just we knew we wanted to have a plot twist. We wanted you to get attached to your companion and then lose it, and then okay, get it back again by a new shape, and then at the end the companion looks like your like the enemy, right? Just with a different color. And then the end sequence, we actually drew the entire end sequence, which is an insane amount of frames to do. It took us a while. And then we had this scene where you were holding the companion, but in enemy form, and they will melt on your hands. And at some point, it was like, I'm not feeling it. I don't feel attached to this guy. This is the enemy. Like, no, 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 no. We were like, okay, what shall we do? We drew it already. It's done. I was like, I'm sorry, guys. We got to change it. It's got to go back to the round form first, and then you hold the round shape, the little ball in your hands, and that it looks at you, and then it melts away. And we did it. It was controversial because we had to change a lot of animation, a lot of frames, but it was 100% worth it. We did it, and everyone in the team was okay. Now I almost want to cry now. Okay, it makes sense now because you're losing the thing you were attached to. You were not attached to the big enemy. You were attached to the small, round companion. So it's a little detail, but that kind of really made a big difference. It's night and day. The old version, you will not feel anything. It's just, I don't care. Like the new version, like some people actually cried like when watching the end of Full Void. I have to say thanks to the music as well, which was made by Robin. She did a fantastic job with the music, and Jack as well. Jack took care of all the ambient audio, all the creepy sound you hear. There was Jack, mostly Jack. Some of them are done by Robin as well, and all the music is done by Robin. And really, when we put the music into the game, we really felt like, okay, now it's actually scary for us as well to play. So yeah, that's one I think that surprised us, like the end of the game, the ending.
Yeah, man, I was gutted. There was it was all over the place
So,
because it mean in a
sorry
way.
for the long rant.
No, it's fine. It was really interesting. Like it was quite mean as well. You go through the whole game, most of the game with this little guy. You do get quite attached to him because he's quite cute and he's
Yeah.
quite cool. And he helps you out a lot. Yeah, and then you get all that at the end, and you're like, oh fuck, bastard.
Yeah. And it was a struggle to have you attached to the guy because they don't talk, right? So we had all this back and forth with Robin about the cute sounds that the robot makes, like a bit like Star Wars robots, right? And they kind of work because you know he's saying something to you, right? So that's okay. That kind of works like robot language, but then you get attached to it and you miss it. When you're on your own, it's like, oh, I'm on my own again. No,
And that kudos to you and the team because, like
yeah,
we said, it's a short game. You haven't got a lot of time to explore the lore or stretch a story to get the player to that point or whatever.
yeah.
You managed to do it all in like a short amount of time. So that on its own is just a bigger feat.
Yeah, it was tricky. It was a lot of work. I'm proud to say we didn't do any crunch or any overtime. We didn't work on weekends. It still took 2 years to make the game, but at least we did work day and night to finish it. I do believe you're more productive when you work no more than 8 hours a day, and then you have a break. You go home, go out, do whatever you want, and come back the next day fresh. It's important.
It is true. I mean, even like where we talked about playing games with the really hard puzzles or whatever, and back in the day, you would go away for a couple of days or whatever, wouldn't you, without playing it, and you come back and you probably do it straight away. Yeah, it's same kind of principle, I guess. You're coming back with a fresh mind.
I do remember renting the PlayStation with my friend. It was so expensive. None of us could afford it. So we rented for one weekend, right? It was like 4 kids renting the PlayStation for a weekend. What do you think will happen? we'll stay awake for the entire weekend to finish a game. But I don't advise to do that.
No, definitely not. obviously kudos to Robin as well then with the music
Yeah,
that you mentioned, because you're right. I always appreciate really good strong music in a video game, and I think the music is one of the most important parts of a game because it
yeah,
can really set the mood, it can set the atmosphere, it can set the world that the game is trying to give you. And without the right music or the right ambience, then that can falter really, really badly. The music is such an important part of a good video game.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Robin really nailed that because it did really give that atmosphere, it did really give you that kind of eeriness as well, and that kind of feeling of the world that you were trying to create in front of you. It really set that for the player.
Absolutely, it's true for any film as well, or cartoons or anything. Like the
Mm.
music and the sound is such a big part of it, and the game did change once we put the music in. Some of it we had from the beginning, the main tune, and some of the early music we had from the beginning, but most of it was done towards the end of the project, and it really transformed the game. And she did a fantastic job with the music, which, by the way, is available for free on our website. So if you head over to outofthebit.com, scroll down, there is a way to download the music. You got two options. You can get the MP3 version or the mod music, because we did all the music with the basic Amiga mod, in the Amiga mod format, to have the kind of 90s feeling of the game. So she did all the music mod format, and you can download the original mod format and open it with any modern program like Open MPT, stuff like that, and even see how it works and change it as well, which is
No, it's
nice, I think.
beautiful. I was very excited when I found it. It's like, yes, I
Yeah,
can download the music. Brilliant.
yeah,
Full Void ended up being released on the Evercade, and I believe it was was it their first like solo game cartridge?
yes, yes.
So, like, how did that whole thing come about for you?
Yeah, there was it was great. They happen. I don't know. Sometimes there are moments that things align in your life.
Mm.
That's one of them. It just happened. We went to Nottingham for the video game expo. I think you know Alex and James as well. I
Oh
think
yeah,
they've been on
yeah,
your podcast, if I'm not
yeah.
mistaken. And they organized this fantastic event. I think it was December 22, and we went there, and we met the fantastic guys behind the Evercade Evolution magazine. So Mark and Liam were there. We started chatting, because I was interested in the Evercade as a player. I wanted to
Hmm.
buy one, and I asked them for advice on which one should I buy. And of course, they're not very knowledgeable. They're fantastic people, and we got to talk and spend some time together. And they saw that we developed retro spy games as well. They saw Supercade racing and football on our website, and they told us, "Look, those games will look great on the Evercade. Why don't you get in touch with the Evercade people who have Blaze, and see if you can do something together?" I said, "Oh, thank you." And by the time I got to the hotel, Liam sent me an email saying, "Oh, here is I connected you with the CEO and CTO at Blaze. See if you can do something." I was like, "Oh, thank you, Liam. You're fantastic. Thanks." So we got in touch, and they came to our office in Wimbledon in London, and we had a chat with the people at Blaze, and we talk about football and racing, but they saw Full Void because we had Full Void running on our screen, so we showed them Full Void, and they really liked it, and they decided to make it the first single game cartridge for the Evercade, because they were looking for something like quite different and original in terms of games. And so, of course, we're very, very happy to do it. And we said, "Look, the game runs on our custom engine. We can totally port it, no problem. It's all done in C." So that, fun enough, people go on about using third-party engine, using Unity and other stuff. Let me tell you, if you use other engine, it would have been harder to do. I'm not saying possible. You can do whatever you want, right? And the fact that there are engines is great, and not bashing the engines. It's great that there are engines around. But in this specific instance, the fact that we use our own engine top to bottom made it easier to put our game on the Evercade, also because of the low requirements. Although the Evercade is capable of running quite powerful game, as I've seen from the recent announcement. So yeah, we got to work on that. Of course, for us, it was very strange to have a hard deadline with a physical. We are printing cartridges, everything has to be perfect, and we are used to do digital, and we didn't want to compromise the quality of the game. So, but we didn't want to do any crunch or overtime. So it's like, oh, what do we do? Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. So we had to be like very efficient. Like, okay, this has to work, and making sure everything was done to the standards that we had in mind. Somehow at the end, the planet aligned again, and we managed to finish with 1 day to spare. Not a lot, just 1 day to spare.
Mm.
We sent it to Evercade, and we printed the cartridges. So that was great. It was so we really, from our side, we really said, okay, if we're going to do a physical release, we really want it to be special, and we said we'll work with you 100% to give you everything you need. So we ended up agreeing. They were fantastic to work with, the people at Blaze. They really had a lot of enthusiasm for the game, for the project. So on our side, we did the art book. So we collect a bunch of stuff. So if you got the special edition of the Evercade of Full Void, you got an art book. And for both the regular and the special edition, we did a comic with a pre-story. So what happens before the game starts, what happens before the intro, which I find it was very fun to work on. And Leo did most of the work on the comic, and Miles on the art book. But really was a team effort, and together with the people at Blaze. And then we gave them all the assets for the manual. And I have to say, it's one of the best manual I've ever seen. Not because it's our game, but because we didn't, it was mostly Blaze doing it, but the team over there did an incredible job. It's like the manual is so nice. So I do invite you, if you want to collect, if you got an Evercade, buy not just our game, also the other indie games are great, and retro games as well. Just nice to have something physical sometimes. And you got your box, and you open it, and you got your manual, your comic, or extra stuff. You got a bunch of stickers in there as well. It's just something people love to collect, and so it was very special. It was very special to us to work with them to 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 make this the first single game cartridge for the Evercade.
Yeah, it must have been quite surreal for you though to see that
Yeah,
in your hands.
it's insane to have something physical. Okay, that's my game.
Exactly.
Incredible, yeah.
Beautiful. When I learned that I could get that physically, then that exactly what happened. I did miss out on the special edition. I don't know if it's still available.
I don't think so. It's on eBay for an insane amount at the
Of
moment.
course it
So I
is.
don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe you can find some. I think it's run out. I think it ran out pretty quickly. Actually, I was surprised. I was I had no expectations. I don't know what's going to happen, right? But I sold out pretty much straight away. So much so that I ordered my own copies on Amazon, and then Amazon said, no, can't fulfill the order. Sorry. I said, oh. Of
I
course,
heard
we
that
got provided
happened.
with a few from Blaze, but I wanted to buy a couple for my kids to have for them. And then Amazon did a rerun, just one, because they canceled my order, and I managed to get them on Amazon myself. So I got one each for my kids, and I'm glad I did, because again, they go for like £400 on eBay already. So
It's
it's
bonkers,
insane.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Crazy.
bonkers.
So yeah, no, it was really cool. I got the standard edition anyway, so I got the comic in there, and got the little story in there and stuff. So yeah, no, it was really
Yeah,
beautiful to see that you guys got that experience. So
yeah, the standard edition is still great. The manual is the same, the stickers are the same, and the comic is still there. The only thing that is missing is the art book.
which I am quite sad about because, like I said earlier, like the whole, the art throughout the whole game is so beautiful that I just stop and stare at it. The art book would have been really cool to have, but hey, I've got the internet. There's stuff on there to
Yeah.
stare at from the game. So, okay, well, I do have a question from my son. I asked him earlier, like, oh, I'm going to be talking to a game developer later. Is there a question you'd like to ask a game developer? And his question that came back was he just wanted to know, how hard was it to make Full Void?
Well, given the program ever since I was 8, for me, it's actually, I find it easier than writing English or Italian when I program. So, and again, I use my own tools, my own engine, so I have not dependency for third-party software madness. So it was actually very, very enjoyable. I enjoyed every minute of it, of programming Full Void. It was great. From the point of view of managing the project itself, is as tricky as it is to manage any project with like 5 up to 7, 8 people with freelancers and stuff. Especially towards the end, there is a lot of stuff you have to make sure it's fine. It's like, okay, we got the animation, we need to do the sound. Wait, we're doing the sound, but the animation can change, and then we need to change the sound. So, but to be fair, everyone's super professional, and you'll be surprised. We had basically no issues. We worked together really, really well. I'm not saying just because I want to promote the game or the company. I'm just saying because we really work well together. And it's probably because again, it's not 50 people working on a game. It's five, six, seven. So it's manageable, which is probably true for most of the software houses in the 90s, right? Like again, I mentioned Team 17 and Bitmap Brothers. It was just a bunch of people working together, making what they like, and everyone was very passionate about the project and believed on the project in the project. So in that sense, we were on the same page, like all of us, which made it a lot easier. So I have to say, I really enjoy working on Full Void.
And what's next? What's next for you guys? What should I be keeping an eye out for?
Yes, you should keep an eye out for. So we're working on another game, on a new game, which we have not announced yet, but we will soon. We started development straight after Full Void. It's pretty much the same team working it. We had Tom join the company towards the end of Full Void. He's a professional animator. He's done proper cartoons and stuff, and it really helped with the intro and all the animations of Full Void. Together with Leo, of course, we did a fantastic job. So together, pretty much the three of us at the moment, we're working on this next game that we're going to announce soon. So what I can tell you is that if you like Full Void, you're going to love this game. It's not a sequel. It's not linked to Full Void. But if you like the type of game, like puzzle platformer, you're going to like this game. After working for 2 years with Full Void Palette, we went for a different, more like brighter style for this game, just because, again, we don't want to repeat the same thing over and over.
Sure.
But if you like hand-drawn animations, you're going to be very happy with this game. There is like so much animation. Already we got 6,000 animation done for the new game.
Blimey.
6,000 handcrafted frame by frame animation.
Wow.
So we are really stepping it up, and it's a joy. Again, I mentioned we work well together. Now it's the second game we do together, and I feel like we just before I finish a sentence, like Leo knows what I'm talking about, or Tom, like we just understand each other really well, and that's great from the point of view of creativity and creating something. Another difference from Full Void, we double up the resolution, so it's 640 by 360. The reason is to have more. It's still pixel art, but more like from the late 90s. And the reason is that we wanted, for the style we got in mind, we needed that W of the pixels. And that allow us to have a different grid. So I'm going to go technical here. So Full Voice got a grid of 20 by 20 pixels, which is 16 by 9 tiles in the game. You don't see it when you play, but it's there. The new game has got double resolution, so it's double that, right? 32 by 18. So that way, basically, you got more space for platforming. So we can create more in the game. So again, it's like Full Void on steroids. So if you like Full Void, you're going to like this game. It's a different vibe. We got combat at this time in the
Ooh,
game. So the main character is not, let's say, is not, can actually fight. So we are very excited. We can't wait to announce the new game. It's really shaping up nicely. We're very happy with it. We had a few friends play testing it. It's not finished by any
no,
stretch,
no.
just a couple of levels at the moment, but
Mm.
we really like where this is going. And we do want to share more. So, follow us on social media. We can't wait to show every single detail and share the development as well.
I'm very excited, Ali. Can't lie. Sounds amazing. So,
And for the audio department, we're working with Robin again. So
oh, awesome. So, yeah, brilliant. Well, I'll be there day one for sure. Yeah, can't wait for that.
thank you.
Well, Ali, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an education. I guess it's been really. It's been interesting to hear everything that you said throughout the interview. So massive thank you. Yeah, my massive thank you for coming. It was pretty brilliant.
Thank you so much. I enjoy your questions as well. It was very nice chatting to you.
You mentioned about social media. Obviously, if people have enjoyed hearing what they want and they want to explore more, where can they go to do that?
Of course, we are on Twitter or X as Out of the Bit, BIT, Out of the Bit. Same for YouTube. YouTube is going to be very important in the next few months.
Ooh,
Heads up. And then Instagram is Out of the Bit as well. TikTok is Out of Bit Games, something like that. We are not very good at TikTok
mm,
yet.
yeah.
We're learning. But yeah, if you follow us on Twitter, X, and YouTube, then we'll share everything we're doing.
And that's where you'll get to see the new game.
Exactly. That's for the company. Myself, I'm Ali Mositi on Twitter/X. So Ali Mositi.
Yeah, go people, go and do that right now. Definitely, definitely worth your while to get that in now, so you're ready. You're ready to see full forward stuff and what's coming next. Once again, Ali, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
And a massive thank you to you who's listening right now. We are very grateful for your company and we hope you enjoyed the interview. Don't forget to follow Ali on the socials to keep up to date on Full Void and for that very exciting announcement for the next project. That's all we have for this one. I hope you all take care out there and stay safe. And we will see you all in a couple of weeks' time with another episode. Until then, my name has been Jason and you've been listening to What's Wrong with Wolfie, a pop culture podcast to the max. Goodbye!